Hello and welcome to Soulwise with me, Semele Xerri. And in this episode, I wanted to give you a bit of background to my lifelong love of story and myth, and to show you the journey I made from using reading as a way really to avoid the harshnesses of life into a deep spiritual connection through myth and story that actually helped me to ground into the reality of being a human being. In the early days of my spirituality, I really didn't want to be grounded in my body. It felt too heavy and dense, too problematic and painful for this being, who just wanted to float and fly in the light without the perceived weight of physicality and form. I know now that I was not alone in this. As a child, one of my main escapes was books. I loved them and read widely and avidly, with a special passion for history, myth, legend, and fantasy-based stories. What I know now as a much older, wiser, and happily earthed adult is that there was deep wisdom in this reading that I didn't fully understand at the time. Fast forward to today, and I'm a huge fan of writers like Martin Shaw and Sharon Blackie, who speak so eloquently of connecting to the land through the myths and folklore associated with the area where you live, to enhance and inform your own deep dive into personal encounters with the natural world around you. As a child, I must have known the truth of this on a soul level, because as an adult I had one of those moments of crystal clear realization that in my youth I had always been attempting to connect to the earth in this way. My higher self knew that story and myth could help me find my own place and occupy comfortably my own space in an earthly landscape. I was lucky as a child that my parents always took us on a 2-week annual holiday, and we visited some beautiful places around the UK. Wales was a frequent favourite, the Lake District, Cornwall. It's easy to see how these early experiences have influenced my current lifestyle choices, living as I do now in West Wales. I remember my mum and I had a tradition of seeking out a novel to read, or preferably a series that would keep insatiable readers like us satisfied through the whole 2 weeks. A novel that was set in the place where we were holidaying. Our choices were almost always historical, with fictional stories woven imaginatively around a foundation of real events and situations, in real places. They featured glorious descriptions of the local landmarks and geographical features, which only added to our joy and interest when we visited them in reality ourselves. It was almost like greeting an old friend. I continued this reading habit into my adult life wanderings too, expanding my explorations into local legend, myth, and folklore, as I felt instinctively it attuned me to the frequency of a place and the people who lived there both now and in the past. Ultimately, I know that these stories helped me to find my own belonging to the earth, and to be comfortable with that after years of wanting to escape into the lighter realms of spirit. Fairy tale and folklore, of course, speak of the proximity and interconnectedness of the other realms with the everyday world, and advise being fully awake to and honouring of the natural kingdom and landscape around us, so that we can cross back and forth between these realms to their mutual benefit. Myth and story roots enchantment and magic into the land for us. Or is it that the land germinates myth and story in our consciousness? Either way, and I feel it's both, they encouraged and enabled me to make that spiritual link with the natural physical world and my present incarnation. It was a godsend, quite literally, for this starseed soul who needed a sympathetic stepping stone to fully ground into form and physicality. Anthropologist Keith Basso spent years studying the Western Apache people of North America, which led him to write the book Wisdom Sits in Places. He says, "The past lies embedded in features of the earth, which together endow their lands with multiple forms of significance that reach into their lives and shape the ways they think. Knowledge of places is therefore closely linked to knowledge of the self, to grasping one's position in the larger scheme of things, including one's own community, and to securing a confident sense of who one is as a person." This has certainly been my experience and confirms my tried and tested belief that we cannot separate ourselves from our natural environment if we wish to live a healthy and balanced life. The key to our continued existence and spiritual ascent is to see and know the earth and ourselves as one body, engaged in a continual exchange of love, power, and wisdom. In her Pleiadian series, Barbara Marciniak refers to the earth as a living library. That resonates and appeals to the book-loving child that is still strong in me. So I would encourage you to renew your library card if you're fortunate enough to have a library near you that's still open. Venture among the stunning knowledge-laden shelves of Gaia and start borrowing. I thought it would be nice to give you a list of some of my travel reads through my youth that have contributed to weaving me into the web of life wherever I was. Perhaps they can inspire you to do the same. So when we were in Cornwall, we read the Poldark series by Winston Graham. We now have the added advantage of being able to picture Aidan Turner as Ross Poldark as you read. In the Lake District, it was the Herries Chronicles by Hugh Walpole. In Wales, Sharon Penman's Here Be Dragons, the first in a trilogy of Prince Llewellyn novels, are magnificent. And you have to read the Mabinogion, especially the modern translation by Charlotte Guest, which is both poetic, exciting, and accurate. For Dorset, read all and any of the Thomas Hardy novels. For Lancashire, and to have a little witchy twist, try Mist Over Pendle by Robert Neal. In Ireland, you can't beat Fairy and Folk Tales of the Irish Peasantry by W.B. Yeats. And in Brittany, Folk Tales of Brittany by Elsie Masson. For my county of growing up, Wiltshire, you can read the epic novel Sarum by Edward Rutherford, which takes us through a huge span of history following a family living in that area. I think I'd like to share later on in this podcast some books that have really had an impact on my life, alongside the poetry and myth and story that I've also promised you. So do let me know if there's anything you're interested in me talking about, or if you have recommendations for me that I can read and then give you my comments on. So for now, that's the end of this episode. But as always, I encourage you to know yourself, shine your light, and love life. Until next time, goodbye.